When you look up YouTube videos about growing on Twitch, you typically see a lot of really well-produced content from streamers that have been doing this for years and years. The difference between those videos and this one is that you're going to be getting the perspective of somebody who has recently just completed the 0 to 15 journey, who is still currently aware of all of the recent strategies that have been working really well, and I'm going to be taking a crack at getting into your brain so that you can start thinking about creating content just a little bit differently. Stay tuned. So before we get started, I am going to let you know that I do stream on Twitch on Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday nights as Disciple Live. Come hang out. It'll be a blast. We'll talk about growth on Twitch and whatever else you can think of. Plus, if you ever want to see a 15 to 50 viewer video from me, I'm going to need your support. All right, shameless plug, check. Let's dive in. This isn't going to be going from 0 to 15 viewers is actually really easy type of video, because it's not. And I just hit my 15 viewer average goal. I'm well aware of that. I'm not claiming to be Harris Heller or any of these other partnered streamers that have had it figured out for years and years. I started streaming Halloween of 2019 and hit my 15 viewer average goal August of 2020. It took me nearly 10 months to figure out which strategies worked and to build a community that would ultimately result in me hitting that 15 viewer average goal. And during that time, it took a lot of self-reflection to understand the emotional state that I needed to put myself in, how to be consistent with that, and frankly, the foundational basics of what makes a decent stream. And because I've taken the time to self-reflect, analyze, map the last 10 months out to figure out what worked and what didn't, I feel I do have value to add that will be beneficial in your 0 to 15 journey. And before we get into the specifics, I want to tell you my general strategy. It's something that's really basic, but it's also something that's really ignored. You need to stop grinding for followers, and you need to start creating content for viewers. Let me explain. If you're anything like I was when I first started, you'd come home, hop on Twitch, wait for the viewers to come, and then when they did, you'd desperately try to interact with them via chat, hoping that they leave a follow and then come back. If you've fallen into this trap like I did, and this is your main method of growth on Twitch, and you want to be a full-time content creator, this method will never generate enough volume through your channel to make that happen. So instead of waiting for that next viewer to follow you on Twitch, create the best possible content that you can for the viewers that are already in your chat, for the people that already follow you on Twitter, and for the people that already share your stuff on Facebook. These are the people that are not only going to consistently come back to see the awesome content that you produce, but they're also the people that are going to be getting your name out there because they're going to want to retweet and share your stuff. And I only have 730 followers on Twitch, but I know people who have thousands of followers and still have around a 5-viewer average. This is why it's so important to go after those views and not the followers. So now that you've got a bigger picture of the overall strategy I now apply to whenever I create content, we're going to dive into some of the more specific items I found very helpful and are essential to growing on Twitch. There's really no way to create a video about going from 0 to any number on Twitch without going over these 5 first tips I'm going to share with you. They are the basics, they're the essentials. If you've been streaming for a while, you've probably heard them a lot. The last 5 tips that I'll share with you are designed to get into your brain so that you can objectively self-analyze your own content, your emotional state, and what your next steps need to be so that you can apply these principles and ultimately result in better content, endurance, and overall viewership. Let's get into the specifics. Specific tip 1, create a schedule. I know you've probably heard that 1,000 times already, but hear me out on my perspective. A schedule can be really helpful for your following because you never know which viewer really enjoys your content and wants to know when to catch you next. A schedule can also be very beneficial for you because if you stream at the same times every week, then you're going to be streaming to the same people who are available that week, which means there's a greater chance that they're going to be coming back to your stream. Which brings me to specific tip 2. Stop counting on motivation. I picked 3 days in the beginning that I was available to stream after work, and I came home, said hello to my wife, gave her a kiss on the cheek, flipped on my camera, and started playing right away. The reason I typically recommend 3 streaming days at first is because you're working out your streaming muscles for the first time. If you're going from 0 streams to 3 streams every week, that's a huge life change, and it's something that you need to consider. And if you add another day on top of that, it might be just enough to burn you out. After a few months of streaming 3 days a week, I eventually bumped it up to 4 because I was used to doing it so much that going from 3 to 4 wasn't that big of a life change for me. Additionally, a schedule can be really helpful for you because it can keep you honest and accountable to signing back online, turning the camera on, and going live. Which leads me to specific tip 2. Stop counting on motivation. Soon after you start this journey, within weeks, you are going to lose motivation. Everybody does. That's okay, but it's not okay to let that lack of motivation keep you from streaming. In the last 10 months, there was a slight lull between late December, early January, you get it, with all the holidays, where I just stopped streaming so much, and my viewership suffered because of it. And there's probably a lot of people who might disagree with me here, and that's totally fine. If you want to make Twitch your hobby and you only want to stream when you feel like it, go for it. But if you want to make Twitch something that you can do full time, then you need to start treating it like a business. So stop leaning into motivation, start leaning into consistency. Moving on. Specific tip 3, chat interaction. Unless you're extremely skilled at a game that you're playing and that's why everybody wants to watch you, play games that encourage and foster an environment in which you can interact with your chat and not have to make them wait for you to respond to them. When you are at the stage of 0 to 5 average viewers, it is crucial that every single person that enters that chat feels that they are welcome and they can have a conversation with you pretty quickly. Once you get to the stage of 10, 15, maybe 20 viewers, there's gonna be enough people in chat that maybe it's okay for you to finish up that game of Rocket League because they have plenty of other people with whom they can talk. And that was pretty much chat interaction. It was a really quick tip. We'll move on to specific tip 4, get your tech. This is where people start getting themselves into some real financial trouble. They've been struggling with their stream. They started it up, they were all motivated, but now it's been a month. They are still at 0 to 1 viewers and they're willing to do anything in order to improve those numbers. And don't get me wrong, there needs to be an initial investment at first, but that's all going to be personalized to your specific budget. And it's important to remember that your fancy webcam or DSLR camera or fancy microphone that you might have does not get viewers. Content does. And as the quality of that content improves, so will your financial situation on Twitch. And maybe after a few payouts, then you can get that fancy DSLR camera that you've been wanting or the microphone that you've been coveting for 6 months. And the last thing that I want to say when it comes to investing into your stream is to not blow your budget on your setup. Look at what's behind me right now. I've got some Home Depot boxes that are back there because we have a move coming up in a few months. And then I've got 3 $15 floodlights that are shining red and blue. And those floodlights help a lot with changing the environment into a more fun place to interact with me. Check it out. I'll show you what it looks like without those lights. It's not nearly as fun, right? They make a difference. They only cost $15 each, and they change the entire dynamic of this interaction when it's real time. Just keep in mind that content brings people to your channel, not your setup. Moving on. Specific tip 5. Find communities you love hanging out in. Now you might ask, well, wait, why would I be hanging out in other people's channels in Twitch when I could be streaming in my own? The thing about being successful on Twitch is that you have to make friends, and in order to do that, you're going to need to get out of your own community with 0 to 1 viewers every single time you stream and get into other communities in which you can interact with a lot of people and develop relationships with them. And I think it's very important to clarify that you shouldn't be there to get more viewers. I shouldn't be there to get more viewers. I should be there to have fun, interact with the streamer, and just have a good time and let those organic friendships happen organically. And as you've probably heard, one of the worst things that you can do in a Twitch chat is self-promote. Don't say things like, oh, that's really cool. I stream too. You should come check me out. Nobody likes to see that. The viewers don't like to see it, and the streamer definitely doesn't like to see it. And it's possible you might try to be slick and say something along the lines of, okay, well, good hanging with you. I'm about to go live. I'll see you later. And even if your heart was in the right place and you didn't mean it in a bad way, just try to avoid the situation altogether, because unless the streamer is really good at being able to tell who's genuine and who's not, there's a possibility that there's going to be a thought in the back of their mind that you're just out for yourself the entire time that you're in their chat. So just keep that in mind. Okay, moving on to some more thought-provoking tips. Specific tip 6, be as close to absolute you as you can possibly be. Hear me out. This isn't some sort of be yourself speech and the viewers will come, because I know we've all heard that before. This tip is more so for your own longevity so you don't get burned out and so that you can keep producing quality content without slowing down. I do want to clarify that if your Twitch strategy involves a character or you have a parody account, then this particular tip might not be as applicable to you. This is more so for the people who are just trying to be themselves as they play video games and interact with chat. We'll start with the question that you might be wondering. What is your absolute self? This is who you are when nobody is watching, if you're single, or hopefully if you have a significant other you enjoy spending time with, who you are with them. When you have all the inside jokes, when you have all of these goofy memories together and you can just be silly and spontaneous and as wacky as you want to be. Now, it's not always appropriate to be your absolute self on stream, right? You can't just yell the word eggshells at the top of your lungs and then start rolling around on the ground, expecting more viewership because of that. Your viewers are probably just going to think you're crazy. You might know what you're doing, and your significant other might know what you're doing, but you just look insane. That being said, if you rein in the unrelatable extremeness and you keep your weirdness and you keep your silliness, you are putting yourself in an absolutely fantastic position to succeed on Twitch. This is what your viewers want. This is what makes you uniquely you and what makes viewers attached to your personality and differentiates you from the millions of other streamers that are on Twitch. When I see somebody struggling to break the 0 to 5 average viewer range, this is the #1 cause I've observed from those people, is that they're still really nervous and that they're apprehensive about just letting it all out. And it's holding them back because their viewers can definitely see that. And if you're a new viewer to the channel and you see somebody who's not very confident, you're likely to just move on. I've had to learn that the same is also true if you're overly confident and it looks like you're just putting on a show. When I first started streaming and I would either have a great day at work or a terrible day at work, I would still sign on, go live, and the first thing that my viewers would see would go something like this. Get ready to cringe. Hello everyone and welcome to Disciple Live. I'm certainly glad to have you here. Hope you're all doing well. Today we're going to be getting into some Fortnite, maybe some Minecraft, and we're going to try to make as many friends as we possibly can. Let's do this. Not the best content, right? Here's the thing. Your viewers are going to end up figuring you out. They're going to end up knowing who you are. And when they see that, they're going to be able to call it out as a front. It's okay to be goofy and it's okay to be silly. Just don't do those things outside of who you normally are. It's also important to remember to not overshare. It's okay to talk about some tough stuff within your chat, but don't let your real life interactions be affected by your on-stream interactions. Additionally, if you start oversharing and you just start airing all of your grievances out to your chat, then they're gonna start thinking that that's the content, and that's a road you just don't want to go down. But as you be weird and you be silly and your chat sees you being as close to your absolute self as you can possibly be, you'll find yourself in a situation that makes you want to rush to the computer when you get home, flip that camera on, and go live. Before we move on to the next tip, if you're enjoying this content, I want to encourage you to please hit that subscribe button. That helps me out tremendously. And as you know, I'm currently trying to grow just like all of you. That would be a huge way to support me. All right, let's move on. Tip number 7. Watch your own VODs with an objective lens. What I mean by watching with an objective lens is that you can't have that little level of grace that you have when you watch yourself in any other video. You know how most people despise hearing their own voice? You should be so used to it to the point where it doesn't bother you in that way ever again. The reason why watching my own VODs has been invaluable to me is because I've been able to tell where things went wrong, and I can see where things went right. Sometimes there's just no reason for people leaving. You're having a great time, the content you're producing is amazing, but people just have to go. Other times you can see where you made yourself cringe, and if you're making yourself cringe, you're making somebody else cringe that might be encouraged to see who else is online. Additionally, you pick up little things like, oh, this is when I should be looking at the camera a lot more often so that I can have more of a connection with my audience. When people ask for my advice and I give this tip to people, it is often one of the most difficult tips to stay consistent with because you are forcing yourself to watch you fail. Unless you've been doing this for a while and you've been able to see the results that this method can bring, Nobody likes watching themselves do something wrong, but you have to get past that if you ever want to make this a full-time thing, because you need to improve to the point where you are better and more entertaining to watch than the millions of other Twitch streamers out there trying to make it full-time. It's also important to note that when you're watching yourself and you end up making yourself cringe, which will happen, it happens to everybody, try not to be too hard on yourself. Look for the great moments that happened in stream as well and figure out a way to perpetuate those into future streams. When you are able to objectively watch yourself and self-analyze, you are putting yourself in a situation with a great advantage over the rest of the Twitch community, because this is a much more difficult skill to develop, not only in content creation, but within life. Think about your whole life. How many people love to admit when they're wrong? How many people do you know that it's very hard for them to admit when they're wrong? A lot, right? But when you're a person that can own up to each time that they're wrong, you are setting yourself up for so much more success as a content creator. Let's move on. Specific tip 8, don't equate time and hard work with the quality of your content. Let me explain this too. Just because you have put a lot of time and hard work into content does not mean that it is content that somebody else wants to watch. It took a lot of time for me to understand that the hard work and time that I was putting into this content didn't necessarily mean that it was going to attract a lot of views. I know a lot of you have felt the same way, and you can feel my pain on that. And whether you're YouTubing or streaming or some other form of content creation, you need to ask yourself, is this what people want to see? Do people want to watch me play this game that they can watch thousands of other people play? And if you have a big enough following, maybe they do. But if you're having trouble getting discovered, maybe they don't. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be putting hard work and time into content that you're not necessarily the best at creating, because that's gonna help you get so much better and expand your horizons and ultimately your longevity. The reason why I think it is so important to point this out and be aware of this in your 0 to 15 journey is because it's really easy to fall into a trap of spending a lot of time and a lot of hard work on content, putting it out there, and then when it doesn't perform well, you just think it's because you haven't been discovered yet. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. The second video I ever uploaded onto YouTube is not something I spent a lot of time refining the quality. You can go back and look at it. It's me building my Ryzen 9 3900X build, and it's clear that I hadn't been doing this for a while. And at that point, I didn't understand what people wanted to see. I was just trying to create any content that I possibly could that I thought might do well. And it turns out that people love to be able to look up the PC they're thinking about building, or they want to compare their own PC with mine, or they just want to see a really cool looking lit up PC. I still don't know all of the details, but I do know a lot more than I did, which is going to help me create better content in the future. So don't get discouraged when the streams and the YouTube videos in which you've invested a lot of time and hard work don't do so well. Just try to understand what you needed to learn within that time frame and then try to make more desirable content in the future. Specific tip 9, be aware of your brand. This doesn't mean having awesome logos and panels and graphics. This is what people think when they see something related to you. It's what you're known for. When people see your profile picture on Twitter, a tiny rush of emotions goes right through them, and those emotions are what they associate with you. That's your brand, which is the point of those graphics, logos, and panels. The more that they see that stuff, the more that they feel those same emotions that they associate with you. If you have a positive brand, then that's great. Figure out what you're doing that makes people feel that way and figure out how to perpetuate that. If you don't have a positive brand, then maybe you need to do some self-reflection. Go back through your VODs or do the other things that we've talked about in this video so you can figure out where things are going wrong. Whether you're making people feel one thing or the other, you are making them feel something, and it's very important to be aware of what that is. So we've made it to the final tip, and before I share it, this is one that you might have heard before, but I could not have made a 0 to 15 viewer average video without sharing this tip. Here it goes. Stop thinking of yourself as a streamer, start thinking of yourself as a content creator who happens to stream. I think I know the reason that this is talked about so much. It's because of people like me who were very stubborn in the beginning and were just dedicated to saying, nope, I'm gonna make it on Twitch. I don't need to create content elsewhere. People are gonna find me here. And that's a really easy mindset to fall into because that might be the only thing you truly want to do. But I can tell you, as somebody who had that mindset and then changed it up within the last 2 months and started creating content elsewhere on YouTube, on Twitter, TikTok, I have seen a drastic increase in growth, and we have been able to maintain that growth far better than we ever have before. It's because we're staying consistent. We're keeping ourselves in people's minds, and that's what you need to do if you really want to grow on Twitch. Don't let those followers that came in, dropped the heart, and then left forget about you. Give them a reason to come back and stick around. I know most of us have heard before how terrible Twitch's discoverability really is, and the truth is, it's probably not going to change anytime soon, because the amount of time that it would take to change the infrastructure and manipulate the algorithms a different way would take an incredible amount of time, and you shouldn't be counting on it. Because if you do, while you're waiting, the competition is going to be out there creating content on other platforms, bringing them to their own Twitch channel, and you're going to become more and more difficult to find. I struggled with breaking the 10 to 11 viewer range for months, and then when I finally started creating content on other platforms like YouTube and Twitter, I was able to break through that 11 viewer average, propelling myself to a 15 viewer average, which then I allowed myself to make this video. And now I'm currently sitting at a 16 viewer average, and I have no idea how to break that yet. I guess you're just gonna have to stay tuned for updates on my progress. And after a 10-month period of time, I finally learned how to make all of these things come together. And that is how I went from a 0 to 15 viewer average on Twitch. If you found this video helpful and you'd like to talk about it in real time, don't forget that I do stream on Twitch on Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday nights. Come hang out. We can talk about growth on Twitch or whatever else you can think of. If you like this video, hit that like button. And if you want to see more helpful videos like this in the future, hit the subscribe button. And until the next time, guys, I hope you all have a good one, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.
Jarwin at the 8-yard line. We're going to go angle smash here. It might not work. It doesn't always work. I'm going to run it first just to get him a little confused, and then we'll go angle smash. Let's see if the run works. Oh, the run works. Didn't even have to go angle smash. Did not even have to do it. And we're going to be very aggressive here, guys. We're going to go quick pass because it is the third quarter. We're going to do the best that we can to keep a lead. Oh, it's in. It is in. He's got to get a 2-point conversion to catch us now. I feel better about everything.